There we are. We are back. Welcome to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. Chi. Thanks for joining us this morning. We invite you to hop in our conversation on YouTube, Getter and Rumble as well. Time now to take the political pulse of America. The beat today, the traditionally left-leaning International Brotherhood of Teamsters are making a political contribution, some on the Republican side, signaling a major realignment with the 2024 presidential election marking the first time in nearly 30 years that the Teamsters did not endorse a candidate. Political analysts now keeping a close eye on their money moves ahead of next year's midterms. Now, according to Politico, since last November, the Teamsters have been throwing more financial support behind certain Republican candidates. Let's welcome to American Sunrise, Tyler ONeal. He's the senior editor at the Daily Signal and author of The Woke-topus, The Dark Money Cabal Manipulating the Federal Government. Thanks for being with us, Tyler. Tyler, I'll tell you, I'm from a day and age where you didn't trust the unions. You just didn't trust them. And I still think most of the public unions are a huge, big problem. Certainly the TSA is making a big run to not privatize airport security, which I think should be done. So no one here is saying that the unions have turned Republican. But what we've all known for a long, long time is that the rank and file members, by and large, are in alignment with the values espoused by Republicans, not Democrats. Is this what we're seeing?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The Teamsters is one of the organizations that actually might put its money where its mouth is when it comes to seeing where their members actually line up, because most of these unions, it is exactly as you just described. Unions are part of the infrastructure of the Democratic Party and the left. They are, the union bosses have been funding these leftist causes. And when I did my research for the Woke-topus, I was surprised to find just how much money unions were taking the hard-earned dues of their members and sending them toward these radical leftist organizations. And so that is a shocking factor that I think many union members are not happy with the direction of the Democratic Party, with especially a lot of the woke ideology that we've been seeing the Democrats rush to embrace. And so you're starting to see this revolt of the union members against the union bosses. And the Teamsters is representing someone who actually is open to what the union members want, as opposed to just what the infrastructure of the unions has constantly been demanding. So this might be a canary in the coal mine for the infrastructure of these unions. They might be facing problems with their members going forward, but I don't expect the natural alignment of these union bosses with the Democrats to change anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Tyler, by the way, let's talk about President Trump and what he's doing in D.C. Democrats are, all apoplectic about it. They're calling Trump's D.C. police takeover a distraction from the Epstein files and tariffs and the tax bill. I was like, what are you talking about? Anyhow, Chuck Schumer is calling Trump's decision to federalize the D.C. police and deploy National Guard to the city an attempted distraction from other scandals, yada, yada, yada. What's interesting to me here, Tyler, and I'd like to get your take on this, is that they want to call him an authoritarian. Well, I had no idea an authoritarian actually followed the rules that Congress laid down. I didn't realize that, because that would be the 1973 Home Rule Act. So maybe you can opine on that.
He's a pretty bad authoritarian trying to return us to the Constitution with these original
What a fail.
judges. I don't know where they're getting this idea. The interesting thing that the Democrats have, I live in the D.C. area. My best friend was robbed at gunpoint. So this is a real issue. This is not a distraction. And we've been seeing all of these weak on crime prosecutors, often supported by George Soros, by the way, who are constantly refusing to prosecute certain crimes and increasing the incentives for crime, allowing people to get away with crime, knowing that they can get away with it, and that makes everything worse for everyone. And so what we're seeing here, President Trump ran on a platform of cracking down on crime, bringing more law and order to America's cities. And I believe specifically Washington, D.C., he's talked about this on the campaign trail. So the idea that this is some just distraction from the Epstein files, which the Democrats didn't care about until yesterday anyway, really, doesn't pass the sniff test.
So let's talk a bit more about crime, specifically as it relates to churches. Apparently, there's been a rash, and you guys have done some investigation. What are some of the states that experienced the most attacks on churches last year?
Yeah, well, this is a really horrifying story. I mean, you see the map right there. The worst states in the country were, as the map shows, California, New York, and Pennsylvania. But unfortunately, right behind them, you also saw Texas and Florida. This is a high population state problem, and it's worst in the blue states, but the red states are not immune from it. What we're seeing here is, and this is something I spoke with the Family Research Council, which ran the numbers on this report. They said that what we're seeing overall in American society is a hatred for, a disgust of, a gut opposition to Christianity. And this is something that's been going on for a while, but you saw the uptick really spike after the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs v. Jackson decision, where suddenly a whole bunch of radical abortion activists decided that this was the last straw, and they started targeting churches, they started targeting crisis pregnancy centers, and they started, vandalizing them, they engaged. And of course, one of the worst scandals of the Biden administration is how little that administration did to enforce the law against those who are targeting them, against those who are targeting churches, while cracking down on pro-life protesters who are often just praying or protesting outside of abortion clinics. A really egregious double standard that hopefully the Trump administration is working to correct. I mean, they pardoned most of the pro-life protesters who were prosecuted under Biden. But we're unfortunately seeing the long-term effects of a culture that's hostile to Christians. And the Family Research Council also pointed out that the Southern Poverty Law Center has kind of institutionalized this hatred of Christians, suggesting that conservative Christians are anti-LGBT zealots. A clear impact here is that the Family Research Council's report includes, as incidents of violence against churches, removal of LGBTQ pride flags, which shows that even though, the SPLC can say that FRC is anti-LGBT, but FRC is calling out violence against all churches, and that includes churches that they disagree with on these sexuality issues.
Story that you're talking about is how much now, instead of just providing abortions, these abortion clinics are doing all of the transition surgeries. They've just moved from one thing to another now. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so many, especially Planned Parenthood. We've seen many big scandals recently where a person will call into Planned Parenthood and say, oh, I identify as the opposite sex. And then there are very few guardrails preventing anyone from getting these really, Frankensteinian so-called treatments. They call it gender-affirming care. But Planned Parenthood will dispense these just like they dispense, or just like they tried to dispense abortion pills. And this is all part of a piece where the leftist LGBT agenda is not only pushing for abortion, but they're also pushing for transgender identity. And some of this stuff, these are sterilizing procedures, and they put you down the path to sterilization. So if you want to talk about population control, if you want to talk about the dangers of Margaret Sanger, who is part of the eugenics movement, she was the founder of Planned Parenthood, this is, it all is of a piece, but I think Americans are right to be shocked by it.
If you can't make a business out of killing babies, I guess you just move on to butchering children. It seems that butchering children just works really well for this eugenicist organization, Planned Parenthood, as it always has been. Tyler ONeal, thank you for illuminating.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks again for having me.
All right, coming up, America wants to see the Epstein file. Party divides over the release, are delaying the public from getting the truth, but we're going to open it up for discussion right here as American Sunrise continues. Also later, renting a grandma for the day may seem like a bizarre concept, but this home-making service in Japan is warming the hearts of those who just need a little help and a little love from some elders. Call it the ultimate win-win. That sweet story when we return.